Hi, everyone. Welcome to Alive, my search for the best ways to live. I'm your host. My name is Jiggy Jr., and my guest today is a mom, an entrepreneur, a scuba diver, a rock climber. She calls herself a gold or a goal, not a gold, but a gold digger, GOAL. And of course, the VP for Top Line Group of Companies, Brigette Carmel Lim. Hi, Brigette.
Hi, good afternoon, Jiggy. How are you?
I am awesome. How about you?
I'm good too. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for doing this. Bree, I just wanted to talk to you primarily because of a poem I read, which you posted on the social media platforms, on Facebook actually, which
Mhm.
caught my attention. And I think it is a very relevant poem simply because times are tough these
Mhm.
days, right? The title of the poem is Tough Talk. Is that what it is?
Tough talk, yeah.
Tough Talk. If you don't
Yeah.
mind, I will read it before we start the show. Is that okay?
Yes, yes. I
Okay.
would love to read it.
Okay. And this is a poem written by our guest today, Bridget, or Bria, as she wants to be called. It's tough to talk about stuff these days. It's tough to talk about plans when everything is so uncertain. It's tough to talk about goals and dreams because the future feels so bleak. It's tough to laugh sometimes, to share light moments because there's so much frustration and heaviness. It's tough to feel brave when there's so much fear around us. These days, it's tough to feel tough. And yet, it's during these toughest of times that we should talk about it. Talk about our plans, talk about our fears, talk about our dreams and goals, even an uncertain future. Talk about the heaviness that hangs around us. Talk about what we love, who we love, what we live for. Talk about kindness and compassion and stepping up for each other. It's tough, I know, but tell me about the people who make you smile. Let's talk about the courage and strength we keep finding inside ourselves in the face of such uncertain times, about not taking anything for granted anymore. Let's talk about joy and hope and faith, and in time, things will get better. So, to anyone who needs to hear this today, herself and myself included, times are tough, but you are tougher. Wow, what an
You
excellent
know,
poem.
how nice naman the way you read it.
Well, it was a nice poem and it
So
deserved a nice reading too.
okay, okay.
Bree, what makes a person tough? When can you say nga kabihan ano tough kini sa tanan? What can you say that?
I think Jig, for me, no, it's easy to say, it's easy to identify somebody who's physically tough and they're probably mentally tough too. But I think the challenge there is identifying people who are emotionally tough. And I think mental toughness also comes with it, emotional toughness as well. Diba? So actually they did a survey of 1 million people and
A
they found
million
out that
people?
1 million people, I think this was done in America a couple of years back, and they found out that only 36% of people are emotionally tough, meaning na people who are able to identify their emotions in real time. Diba? Na they're able to look at their emotions and separate themselves from the emotions. That way they don't get frustrated or angry. So I think that's it's different. Kay ang IQ nato mo good, our IQ is fixed, right? But our EQ, our emotional intelligence, that's something that we can hone in, that we can practice, right? So for me, I think being tough means being tough in all aspects, physically, mentally, emotionally. So it's like a triangle for me. So you can't be mentally tough if you're not emotionally tough as well. So
So it's got to be both. You can't be a one or the other. It comes together like like peaches and herb, right? Or somebody can be physically tough but not mentally tough. Not gonna happen. Not gonna happen.
but I don't be me per se. I'm not a psychologist, but for
Yeah.
me personally, you can't be physically tough if you're not mentally tough too. Because to be able to be physically tough, you have to have discipline, right, and commitment and grit.
Okay. Okay.
So to be able to have all those things, you have to be mentally and emotionally tough. So it's all these things that go together, that create the perfect recipe.
So
So
so uh, is being tough inborn, especially in your case? Were you born tough as nails, or did you learn your toughness?
I think I was born a crybaby.
Okay, aren't we
So
all, right? We're all crying when we
yeah,
come out of the womb,
yeah,
right?
right. Yeah. So I think I don't think we're born tough. I think we're born like like moldable, right?
Okay.
But our environment makes us tough, right? Our exposure. So, for example, if as a child you're exposed to toxicity, to a toxic environment, frustration, anger, fighting, then you're gonna grow up either being affected by those things, or that's going to mold you into becoming a tough person. So I think what makes you tough is your consistent response to challenges in your life, right? Okay, when faced with a challenge, you have two options. You can either, be negative or be positive about it. And if you consistently choose positivity, if you consistently choose overcoming your obstacles, then I think that helps you become a tough person. So for me, being tough requires practice, requires consistency.
So, is it something that you can learn? Do you learn toughness, or do you figure that out on your own? And how do you consistently learn toughness? So you have to have consistently sort of facing problems all the time. Is that what you're saying? That we have to be bombarded with problems consistently to have a consistent response to it?
Not necessarily. I mean, some people have more challenges compared to others. And you don't necessarily have to be bombarded with constant problems. Kay, ma-depress mo sa dano, puro lang problema, right? But I think toughness means the ability to be able to choose, to be able to realize that you have choices in your life, right? That it's not just one response. So if there's a challenge, your immediate response is anger, frustration, depression. There's also the positive side of things that you could choose too. So, but that's like based on my personal experience lang.
Okay, in you obviously have a child, right? Because you mentioned it earlier in our interview, and
Yeah.
I don't know if you can feel it with your child, but I feel it certainly with my children that they're so coddled, they're so there are no losers, especially in school. Everybody gets a medal and all that stuff. Do you feel that way? Do you still feel that they don't have a lot of adversity in a confined and a controlled environment like an academic institution, that we need more toughness to be taught in schools?
Not necessarily, because I don't think we have to force children to face tough situations for them to become tough people. Because children by themselves, like when they meet a new person, that's already a challenge, right? So children are going through their own challenges, especially now that it's the pandemic, like COVID's happening. Them having do online classes, that's a challenge in itself, right? And children being able to concentrate, stay by the computer for hours every day, that's already them overcoming their own personal challenge as well. So I don't think we have to force them, like, I'm going to give you a challenge so you become tough. But that's something that they're already really going through their own challenges, and they're already overcoming their challenges as well. And as they grow up, those challenges are going to change, right? And so I don't think I don't think we have to bombard them with different tough situations. It's just we have to train them to have the ability to respond. So it's the response that we need to train them with. So like for me, Bodhi, so before, like I have to admit I spoil him because I don't want him to have a hard time. But then I noticed that the more I spoil him, the more I enable him, right? So before, yak siya gamay, like, oh, what happened? So now when I look at him, gamay na ang samad. Okay, Bo, you're a brave boy. You can handle it, right? And he'll say, oh yeah, I'm tough, mama. So we'll say that. So there's like a response ba? So when he acts a certain way, I reward him too with positive words as well. And that makes him feel good and makes him more confident too.
I overheard somebody once say, I think it was Joe Rogan, who once said that you need a lot of physical challenges in your life so that your mind will not meander, will not stray to all of these mental sort of hurdles that most of it are just self-made. You are obviously a rock climber, you're a scuba diver, you're also into a Spartan obstacle race race running. You are obviously, congratulations, by the way, for being the ambassador of a Spartan Race in the Philippines. Congratulations. We'll talk about that. What are your thoughts on that, Bree? Does physical challenges make you better also, not just physically, but mentally as well? Are you able to distract yourself from all of those mental traps that we all build for ourselves, as well as those real life problems that are really there? Do you have a better understanding, a better approach to all of these mental problems because you're physically fit? Aside from that, you're physically sort of conquered so many obstacles, especially in events like an obstacle race course like Spartan Race or rock climbing or even scuba diving. What are your thoughts on the relationship between sports, those obstacle course races and runs, and real life situations, real life obstacles?
Mm. So I'm going to tell you a story. So the reason why I started rock climbing was because my number one fear is heights.
Okay.
Right. So for the last, like, grabe yun, like I would just stand on top of a ledge and magkurog na ko, and then that
Okay.
would paralyze me.
Okay.
So I decided last year na with this pandemic, my anxiety came out, my depression came out, frustration came out. So I decided I'm going to do something that will allow me to conquer my fear of heights. And
Okay.
of course, I'm pretty extreme, so rock climbing.
Mhm.
And so when I did rock climbing for the first time, there was a disconnect between my body and my mind.
Okay.
Okay, my mind was saying, "Stop! You're gonna you're gonna fall! You're gonna die! You're gonna die! You're gonna die!"
Okay. Okay.
But there was also this part sa akong body na I wanted to challenge, right? So
Okay.
the first time I did, it was so high jig. Oh my God, pala tumurag, like 5, 6 story buildings siguro. So when I started climbing, I kept crying.
Okay.
Right? Sikiyak, but I still kept going up. Right?
Okay.
So I didn't take means like if you let go. So I
Mhm.
didn't fall, I didn't take, and didn't stop. So I would kind of hinahinay ba? Right? And so for me, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be physically fit to be able to be mentally tough, but you also have to kanang just push yourself beyond your comfort zones a lot, right? Because when you stay within your comfort bubble, that's when you get complacent. That's when you get lazy, right? So I always believe na if I challenge myself constantly, I'll always grow. I'll keep growing, right? And whether I grow physically, whether I grow mentally or emotionally, that in itself is beneficial for me because that's growth and that's very valuable to me. So I guess like that's my own personal take lang na you don't have to like do push-ups, 500 push-ups, like sit-ups. Like it's not just the physical challenge, but it's the mental decision to overcome a challenge, overcome a fear that you have. And that makes you tough in every way, emotionally, mentally, physically too.
So a lot of sports, including those that you participate in, scuba diving, rock climbing, and Spartan race, obstacle race course runs, are a lot of mental and physical challenges as well, right? Does it
Yes.
make you approach your real life business problems, for example, or real life problems better now that
Yes.
you've conquered, for example, an obstacle course race, or you have swam the deepest parts of the ocean, or have climbed the highest mountain? Does that translate to real life situations for you, Brie?
Yeah, it does absolutely. Like for Spartan, so I always tell the people in my life, my friends, my family, that I love being a Spartan because when you're a Spartan athlete, you don't just train for a day or for 2 weeks. You train months before the race. So life's like that because I think a lot of people just take life for granted and they wait for opportunities to fall on their laps. But what happens is sometimes opportunities happen, but if you're not ready, then you're not able to materialize your full potential, right? So when you're a Spartan athlete, for me mismo, like I train months, I train 6 to 8 months before my actual race, right? And then when I'm running the race, one lesson I learned also is I see the obstacle, and in my mind, I'm wondering like, can I do it? Can I do it? I can't, right? But whether I can or I can't, I'm gonna try,
Mhm.
right? And so that's with my life as well. So whether I can or I can't, I'm not gonna know unless I try. And so that's my life philosophy. So I guess that's my value. That's my life value. Like I seldom people ask me, why are you so intense? Why do you love extreme sports? Why do you love these adrenaline? Like I'm intense in every way. My work, being a mom, my fitness routine as well. I just love it because I like pushing myself because I know that I can do better. And if I can do better, I will. Diba? Why not?
How does that translate to business, to your corporate problem, so to speak?
So with Top Line, I work with my brother Eric. So Eric is my younger brother, but he's president of our company, and I'm vice president. So in business, there are so many challenges, right? It's like the iceberg theory. You see the tip, and that's success, but underneath that, 90% of that, 95% of that is like all the frustration, hard work, challenges, roadblocks. And so that the training that I have and the values that I have that allows me to keep going, right? And not get bogged down by frustration or even failure. Like if I fail professionally, I take that as a lesson, right? So I
Mhm.
don't dwell on it and I immediately say, okay, this is what's happening. How can I fix it? Is it fixable? right? And so I'm very lucky too because Eric also shares the same values as well. So he's tougher than I am.
So does being a Spartan have anything to do with the way you approach your business?
Yes, more intense and then more training. So I prepare. So when there's a certain project that's coming up, I don't take it for granted. There's preparation, there are meetings, and then you plan ahead. So when there's a business happening in our minds, we plan like 1 year, 2 years in advance. So Spartan training is like that as well. There's always training. So every day is a chance to be better at something.
So just like most sports, right? Speaking of
Yeah.
sports, I don't know if you've heard of Simone Biles, who pulled out of the women's gymnastic team in the Olympics to focus on her mental health. Did you hear about that? In the Olympics, there was an athlete, a gymnast, who pulled out of the Olympics. He was a favorite to win the gold. I don't know if you also heard. I don't know if you're into tennis, but Naomi Osaka withdrew from the French Open and pulled out of Wimbledon to give himself some mental break because he was getting affected mentally. So a lot of these athletes at the highest level are actually breaking
burnt
down mentally. What are your thoughts on that? And then why do you think that is happening? Are we so soft now that all of these athletes are sort of recoiling and going back, or is this a new awareness of this mental health problems that we all have, even at the highest level of sports?
Well, like I said, I'm not a psychologist,
Of
so
course
I
not.
I can't what's this? I'm just opining. Like this is my
Okay.
assumption lang.
Yeah.
Athletes train so
Okay.
much, right? The athletes I know they train 8 hours a day. It's like their full-time job.
Mhm.
And that takes a physical toll on them. And of course a mental toll too. And behind the scenes, Bud, they're still people. So we don't know what's happening in their personal lives. Are they having problems with their family, their friends, their relationships? So I don't think it's a no. I don't think it's a new thing. The mental, what do you call this? The mental breakdowns. I think that's been happening, but it's more pronounced now because number one, because of social media, so we're able to share these things more consistently, and number two, because of the pandemic as well, because it's a global pandemic that's happening now, so it's affecting all these people at all different levels, right? So, I don't know. I hope I hope we're able to surpass this as one human, as one human, as mankind, as one human force, right?
Because I think achieving great things um, is a very stressful endeavor, right? Especially winning a gold medal. You're not just winning a gold medal; you're
Olympics.
winning a medal for an entire nation, right?
Yes,
So,
exactly.
so the pressure is unbelievable. I can imagine.
Yeah.
Although I've never been an Olympic athlete ever, but I can
There's
imagine.
still
And most of
time. There's still time, Jig.
I know. There's a for senior citizens one of these days, and then most of them are still kids too, right?
Yeah, they train at such a young age, like 12
Yeah.
years old, they're training now. And it's like I can't even begin to imagine. So yeah.
I mentioned to you earlier off cam that I just saw the documentary about Tiger Woods. It's called Tiger. It's on HBO Go, and it was a documentary about how his father raised him to be a golf legend. I mean, literally from the very beginning, from the moment he came out of his mom's womb to where
Mm,
he was or where he is now, he was
mm,
made by his dad to become who he is now. It
mm.
wasn't even a fluke.
Wasn't an option.
It
Yeah,
wasn't an option for him.
yeah.
He was made to become a great golf player, but he
Mm,
wasn't ready
mm,
for. He was tough mentally and physically on the golf course, but
mm,
as you may have known, all of these past few years, so many bad things that have happened with
mm,
Tiger Woods. Recently, I think he ran his
mm.
SUV into a tree
Yeah, it
or
was an
something like that a few
accident.
years ago. So he's not
Mm.
ready for all of these other challenges in life. What do you think, Brie? Because you mentioned that you're able to translate your mental toughness on the field, underwater, or on the mountains when you do rock climbing, but also can translate it to your workplace, to the challenges at work. Is mental and physical toughness translatable to real life? Can it trickle down to your real life, or is it just in one particular field? Is it possible that you're only tough in one particular field, in one particular area in your life, both mentally and physically, but the others you're not as tough?
Potentially, in my personal opinion, yes, potentially. So it could be like, you know what? I wish I could meet Tiger Woods. That's on my bucket list, right? So
Okay.
what him, Barack Obama, right?
Yeah.
So these are people that I really want to meet and I really
Uh-huh.
admire.
Uh-huh.
But behind the scenes, I don't know, like they're like on the top 1% in the world list.
Yeah.
But like I said, we don't know what they're going through. So Tiger Woods, maybe, I don't know, like whatever personal problems he was having, right? And maybe when you're trained to be a golfer, then there's a lot, like you were saying, he was trained at such a young age to be a golfer, and that was his life, right? So then maybe they were preparing him for a life of pro golf, but not personal life.
You were
right?
saying that after all of that success, after all of that training since childhood, there comes a time, there's the word that they use is as a reckoning. So I think that's what happened late in his life. Now he's having some a lot of I think personal issues now, and I think a lot of that has something to do with the way
Yeah.
he was raised, right?
Yeah, well, I guess also because we're not machines, we're not robots, right? And so we ebb and flow with our emotions every single day.
Absolutely.
And just because we're tough one day doesn't mean that we're tough the next day, right? So we're just human. We're just human. We're not perfect. We're just trying to do our best and live our best lives. So even when even if Tiger Woods, if he were a killer, a murderer, a rapist, then that's but then he's probably not. He's probably a really good guy, just having a tough time in his life, right? But then tough moments don't last forever, right? So maybe this is like Charlie Sheen used to be a drug addict,
Yeah.
right? He used to go in and out of rehab. Who's a guy, Iron Man, Robert Downey
Robert
Jr.
Downey Jr., alcoholic. Yeah.
So yeah, he used to be a drug addict, went to rehab. So that was the really tough part of his life. And now, look where he is now. So just because you're having a tough time and you're not being mentally tough or physically, emotionally tough in the moment doesn't mean you cannot be, right? You can transcend that. So, and I think these are beautiful examples because all over the world, people are suffering, people are having tough times, and them having gone through what they did, what they went through shows that kaya di ay. We can overcome our tough times, guys. These guys are perfect examples of that. And there are many more around the world too.
Bree, I don't want to get too personal here, but I have to ask you this question, and feel free to answer this or not. What do you think is the biggest challenge in your life that made the most impact, the most lasting positive change in your life? What do you think is the challenge that made you as tough as you are now?
Well, my greatest samukta ni mo, Jigoy.
Sige lang, good. I think it's important that we tell the story of our lives so that people can learn from it. And whatever you can share to us, we will be honored to listen to it.
All right, thank you. Well, my life philosophy is I don't like air my laundry out, but if people ask, I won't. I also be honest. I'll be honest as well. You're asking. So for me, the greatest personal challenge in my life was when my ex-husband and I separated when I was 7 months pregnant, and we were together for 8 years. And so there was an extremely difficult time in my life. I had a newborn child and had to take care of him. So I really had to exercise toughness in my life. So kana. And because of that experience, that's made me more compassionate, I think. So okay, change topic na sa mukha ni mo.
No, but all of these physical challenges that you put yourself in, scuba diving, rock climbing, and obstacle race course like Spartan. Was this after that, or were you also a go-getter? Were you also always physically challenging yourself even before all of that, all of those challenges that you faced?
I was a go-getter, but I took a lot of things for granted.
Okay.
And then when that happened, I tried to control every aspect of my life. And then when that happened, I realized, man, I can't control anything. I have no control whatsoever. So I'm just gonna live my life, right? I'm going to do things that will expand my life, and I'll enjoy my life in the best way that I can. So that was a really tough lesson for me, but I think one of the best lessons as well, because that really I got to the lowest point in my life, and that enabled me to claw my way back Like I was able to find myself again because of that.
They say, Brie, that being in purgatory
In
is
limbo.
the purgatory in life is not as good as being in hell, because when you're in pure hell,
You just want to get out.
you really want to know what to do. It is so clear in your mind because you don't want to be
Yeah.
in so much heat, so to speak, right? But if you're in purgatory, antos ni gamay, so
Yeah. You settle. I think
you
that's
set.
Yeah, I think that's the word, Jake. I think that's the word. Like, I don't want to settle. Like in life, in experiences, in my work as well, my business. Like, I don't want to be mediocre anymore, right? That's why, like, I don't know. I try to expand my life, right? So I try to, I don't know, just live my life and be happy.
You mentioned earlier that we are now, of course, right in the middle of a pandemic. We thought it was going to end last year, but it's still here. In fact, we're probably even getting worse, and we're still trying to
Worst
figure
way,
it
yeah,
out. And
yeah,
we have, it's not just you and me; it's the entire world who is
yeah.
going through the same kind of challenges, both mental, physical, financial, and all of the other possible problems related to a pandemic. Bree, maybe you have based on all of the challenges that you've faced and how you processed all of those challenges, because I'm sure, although this won't be a walk in the park for you, not for anyone, but I'm sure you already have sort of a set points, set strategies in your mind that allow you to sort of survive mentally and physically a
Mhm.
great a challenge as a pandemic. Maybe you can give us some tips, Bree, on how to approach
Mm.
the problems associated with this pandemic.
Yeah. For me lang, my own personal formula is number one, I move, right? Because I
I mean,
know that,
physically.
yeah, I move physically because when I move physically, I'm able to better process and I get out of my funk, right? Because it's even like when you're sitting down, when you're slouching, you feel slow. But then when you sit up, diba? When you sit up, the
Yeah,
way you talk, your body language,
absolutely.
that, yeah, that
Right.
also, I know, transcends to your emotional state as well. So
Correct.
for me, I move, right? And movement for me means I work out, I spin, I climb, I dive. Number two, I surround myself with, well, not surround, okay, pandemic man, but I reach out to family and friends,
Okay.
right? So I get their perspective on things. And number three, um, I make a list of my goals, and that keeps me going. And number four, I try to be of service to others. Kay, sa ato amang good, when we are depressed, when we're frustrated, we tend to think of me,
Yeah.
right? But then we don't realize that when I'm of service to you, I'm also helping you. And so in effect, we're helping each other by being there for each other as well. So I try to like look outward instead of just what can I do to serve me? So the way that I think is, hey, how am I going to be of service to others? And that's like, how can I serve my family? How can I serve my friends? How can I serve my community through our business? Right. So kinda I hope that helps. And other people turn to music, poetry, art, diba? Movies, food. So we all have different outlets to we all have different outlets for our pain. So I guess it's like timpla-timpla lang jig, diba? So to create the perfect recipe, you have to have different ingredients. So I think for us as well as individuals, kay, we're just very complicated human beings. We're very complex. So we just have to find a right ingredient, a right formula to keep us going, to get us back to that high state, that high vibration state.
But I think the idea of just simply moving, right, just physically moving, is a good
There's
start, right?
science. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's science to it. The
Yeah. Yeah.
endorphins that happen when you move, diba,
Yeah.
breaks you away from your state. So that in itself is ano na.
The more you stay still, the more you want to stay still. And
Yeah,
the
exactly.
matter in motion is more likely to go somewhere than matter at rest. Or
Exactly.
some chemistry lesson that I learned a long time ago. It also applies
Market, diba?
to real life, right?
Yeah, exactly.
This pandemic has forced us to sort of retreat to our homes,
Mm,
and retreat to more mental and less physical endeavors, of course. But you'll find a way to do something physical. But it's really almost like a more of a mental as well as a physical challenge that we're encountering in this pandemic, and less
mm.
worldly issues, perhaps, and more existential questions that crop up simply
Yeah,
because we're all alone
existential
in our rooms.
crisis.
Yes,
Mm,
and everybody around us is just dropping dead and all that stuff. A lot of businesses have closed down, and you
yeah,
run a company, top line group of companies, right? Uh,
yes.
Brie, my question here, in this age of the coronavirus, how has it changed the way you run your business, in particular, top line group of companies? How has it changed your perspective?
Hmm. Well, we've been fortunate, Jig, because my brother Eric, who's president of the company, what he did before Pagud, his philosophy was always to diversify, right? So top line group of companies before was top line business development. So we developed businesses. And so years ago when we started, we no, our goal was to not just have one industry, but to have multiple industries. And ang nice food about Namo is we're very dynamic. So we were able to branch out into the marine industry. We're into port developments. We're into sa tawag ani, high tech. So we're now doing the South Bus as well. Ang naigo ginamo was our restaurant, our Jerry's Real franchise.
Mhm.
So we have 7 subsidiaries. So some of them, of course, scale back ta, and others maintain sad ta. Pero among goal ni Eric yun was when the pandemic happened, the first thing we were worried about is, wow, how will we support our employees, right? We have so many employees. How will we support our employees so that they can support their families, right? So we really tried our best to scale back, to lessen our expenses, and to also kanang just keep on the planning stage. So we were able to grow buyag despite the pandemic, which we're very grateful for.
I was having a conversation with a bunch of law students a few days ago about the word progress, and
Mm.
I think this pandemic is nature talking to us human beings who are the caretakers of this planet. At least seem to think that we're the smartest, although I don't
Yeah.
agree with that. Life forms in this planet. That progress is sort of naningil na ba? I
Yeah.
think because what happened was they're saying that it came from a lab or it came from a bat. It doesn't matter. It came from nature practically. Although it could have been artificially done or naturally done, it doesn't matter. I think it came from nature, and it has given us a perspective of what progress ought to be.
Mm.
Ikaw, Bri, how do you define progress? What is progress to you? Not just for your company, but for all of us, for humanity. How do you define progress?
Yung mga questions ba kay pang Miss Universe kayo?
Dili man na Miss Universe good.
or pang presidente kayo?
Seriously, because you run a company and you're very diversified, so I think I can imagine nga kaning medyo you have an idea what progress is, because in our conversation, I think my personal definition of progress is that of Bhutan, right? That I think it's crucial to measure the happiness of your people more than
Yeah.
anything else. I think
Yeah.
bigger buildings, more bridges, more roads is not necessarily progress, because
Yeah.
I think it has to be a careful balance between nature and
Yeah.
and us human beings, because we're not the only
Yeah,
life
we're not
forms
the
in
only
this planet,
species.
right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
ikaw Bri, you run 7 companies, and you run the risk of progressing so much because you're a go-getter. Your company might explode into one of the biggest companies, not just here in the Philippines, but all over the world. Who knows?
That would be really
And
good. That'd be good.
I think it's crucial that we know early on how you define progress, so you'll expand and grow in that direction and not somewhere
Yeah.
else.
So I think like for me personally, when we say progress, Magod, we immediately think about modernization, digitalization, growth, but we fail to recognize our responsibility back to Mother Earth too, right?
Right.
Our social corporate responsibility. So for me and Eric and our top line team, we created Top Line Foundation. So that's our answer, to like, oh, thank you for giving us the opportunity to be successful and to make a difference in our community. We're gonna give back to our community, right? So I think it's a circle lang. So progress for me means success, progression, moving forward, but also respecting the balance of the status quo, right? So meaning respecting environment, respecting all forms of life, animals, and also giving back to the less fortunate ones. So since the pandemic started, Jig Top Line Foundation has donated, I don't know, 50,000 masks to different LGUs all over Cebu province, Lapu-Lapu, Cebu City, Talisay, and Mandaue. We've donated alcohol, we've donated food packs. So every quarter we do that, right? And eventually, like my own personal goal mismo is to build a school. So because growing up, education has always been ingrained in us. Kay my mom's a lawyer, and she's like the strictest disciplinarian. right? So education was our number one. Di makauyab hantud human o college. That was her number one rule. And so ako, for me, education is what also what's able to free. Education frees people from poverty, because when you're educated, when you have not just a diploma, but when you have the learning, the experience, and the confidence, you're able to alleviate yourself from poverty, thus helping other people. So for me, mismo, my personal goal is to have a school, and that I could provide free education for the less fortunate people in my community. So kana, sorry, taas kaya kung tubag sa iyong progress question.
No, because that's a question that deserves a long answer. Is Cebu progressing in the right direction?
It is. I mean, when you look around Cebu, well, it is and it's not, right? When you look around Cebu, there before the pandemic hit, we were on a high, right? All these real estate
Yeah.
companies coming in, construction. But then the question is, what's happening to nature, right? What's happening to our environment, our pollution, our air quality? A lot more kids now are having asthma. Before wala kayo, but now when you go out, ang tambucho sa jeepney, right? So I think yes and no. So maybe the leaders of Cebu, leaders of the world, they have to also take a step back, because I think we're all in a race. We're all in a race to become a first world country. Now we're also ignoring, diba, the impact of what we're doing to our environment as well. So America, for example, first world country siya, but when I used to live there, a lot of my friends had asthma. A lot of my friends had respiratory problems. Kanang bata pa kayo, they were in their 20s, but dagana kayo sa mga problems, but even their kids. So for me, murag, oh, okay, is it the food that you eat? It's too processed, too much sugar? Is it the water you drink? Is it the pollution? But on the flip side of it, they're a first world country. They're so rich in every way. Diba? So kada, timbang-timbang na gid siguro na. So hopefully we find the right balance. Again, the right ingredients to make the perfect recipe.
Yeah. So do you think we'll do that? I mean, how are we going to get there? How are we going to know the careful mix, the careful balance between progress and nature? Because I think some of us, actually most of us, don't even realize that we're destroying the planet, right? Because we're just doing our all small part of we're all only a small cog of the machine, only a small part of the machine, and we are unaware, we're oblivious to the kind of damage that we are doing, because we're just trying to do our little job here, and we don't even know what the big picture is, and all of us doing the same little things, not knowing what it's actually doing to the whole to the big picture. And I think that's very dangerous to not be aware of what we are doing as a whole, because I think a lot of people don't have the opportunity or the luxury to step back at exactly what is happening. That is kind of a luxury.
Yeah,
right?
to be able, it's a luxury. So the analogy I can think of now, it's like a lake, right? It's a big lake, but we're all different ripples of the lake. Diba? So I could be passionate about rock climbing, I could be passionate about scuba diving, but you could be passionate about the environment, nature, animals, right? So I think, to answer your question, to be able to I don't know how to be able to find that balance, we have to involve everybody's passions, everybody's concerns, everybody's advocacy. So our public leaders, our government agencies, as well as the private sector, right? They need to dialogue. We all need to dialogue. And I think the best progress happens when everybody gets represented. Diba? Kay ako, I don't know a lot about rock climbing. Kay I'm just a beginner. But somebody who's been rock climbing for 10 years, they know what the concerns are. They know what the issues are and how to address them, right? So I think just having policies and having guidelines and rules that represent everybody, and then everybody agrees on that. And I think also participation, like community participation. So
Bree, traffic is bad again. I was in the Mandawi area earlier, and traffic is so bad now. I see a lot of trucks, very dusty. And if you look at the city from the Mactan Bridge, you can see a smog. So we're slowly getting back to a shit show that we once were before the pandemic. And I'm scared that I'm really scared. Sayang with Brie, because the lessons that we could have learned from something like a pandemic, but it should have been earth shattering. It should be it would awaken our government officials, most especially. And then we're almost wanting to go back to that set point before the pandemic, which shouldn't happen, because this is an opportunity for us to change as a city, perhaps, or as a nation. And I'm just scared that we're not going to learn the lessons of this pandemic. Do you think we'll learn the lessons, Lee? Do you think so?
Jig, I wish I had a crystal ball.
I
We
was
can
I,
only-
I was going to ask you about traffic because I know that one of the projects, one of the companies that's close to your heart is Top Line Marina, right? And
Yes.
it is a sort of like an alternative way of traveling
Yeah,
in
transportation.
Cebu, right? Traffic
Yeah.
is one of our biggest problems here
Biggest
in Cebu.
hurdles. Yeah,
Biggest
exactly.
hurdles in Cebu, aside from poverty and all that stuff, of course. And I heard somebody once say that "Ang naman ng progress, traffic is a sign of progress." I think one of the mayors said that. So I go, really? So what are your thoughts on the congestion, traffic congestion here in Cebu?
I think it's a problem ng Gujig because kita island maguta,
Mhm.
diba? So there's no way for us to expand our land mass.
Okay.
So of course, sakto pud siya na traffic is a sign of progress because that means people have more money to buy more material possessions,
Mhm.
and hence there's that economic movement, right? So I think the answer to that is to find alternative means for transportation, which is exactly why we started Tapay Marina, to solve that problem, right? Because if we use the marine highway, there's no traffic, diba, for now, and then it's more scenic. And then, so karon when we did our survey, because we're opening our Liloan port soon, we're building a port there with the help of Congressman Frasco and Mayor Cristina. So among time, ang Mactan to Liloan, it only takes 40 minutes.
Wow.
Compared to the land travel, which will potentially take an hour and a half, 2 hours, right? So ang mo lang is like the goal of Top Line is to have business solutions that will help the community.
So is this just in Liloan, Tumaktan, or do you have other sea routes in the future? What are your plans for Cebu?
So right now we're concentrating on Cebu. So we're gonna have the boats ply from Liloan to Mactan to Cebu City and eventually somewhere down south side. So we are exploring other potential ports. Kaya ito ang goal magud is to eventually have this marine highway.
Okay.
So
Marine
yeah, to
highway.
make travel faster as well. So yeah.
What's
So
the business? What is the sort of the business model that you are kind of following? Is there a country with a sea highway, a sea routes for different
we
locations of a country?
Well, we not recently, but we went to Thailand.
Okay.
Kaya grabe kay ilang ano dito, ilang river cruises. So they have a river
Okay.
there.
Okay.
Grabe ilang stops. It's like 5-minute, 10-minute rides lang. Yung multiple stops siya. So it's not possible here kay ano man ta, we don't have the infrastructure for port developments as well. So that's our model. So eventually the northern part, let's say Bantayan, di ba niya, Liloan, Mactan, Cebu, and somewhere down south, Malbo Alba or Karkar or Oslob. So eventually when tourists come back, they can enjoy that as well. Kay for me magud, Thailand is the country that's most similar to us talking about tourism. But ang ano na to is Thailand has better infrastructure, especially transportation. So pag abot sa tourist diri, they land in Mactan and then they have such a hard time getting from one place to another, right? So if we make it more accessible for them, then they'll be more encouraged to come visit the Philippines. So hopefully that'll makatabang sa na siya.
What mga klaseng boats, Bri? Is it like pump boats or yachts? What do you going to use?
Passenger boat siya, Jig, and it fits about
super cat, anak mura kaning catamaran, na?
Dili sad open siya, double decker boat siya, but actually we're building another boat right now.
Okay.
It'll be 150 seater siya niya.
Okay.
Bapo kay siya, we're launching that in a couple of months. So stay tuned for that lang.
Liluan to Mactan.
Liluan to Mactan na route.
If ever, pwede kang masol.
We're doing a study pag muscle.
But how much is the fee fare for that?
We're still studying pa, but of course, it's like we're not gonna charge high side, diba? So just enough to also encourage commuters to travel side. But for me, the 40-minute travel time, that's na.
Yeah.
I save so much time. Because before, when I used to drive from Mactan to the city, it would take me an hour and a half. Pag abot ako sa balay, tug na akong anak, so I can't spend time with them.
Exactly.
So when I started taking the boat, 30 minutes, so makaapas pa ko na 8 o'clock, makaduwa pa mi. So it's enabled me to have more time with my family.
Wait a minute, is this your personal yacht, or is this like a route that's already being used already?
A route?
This route that you're talking about, is this already available to the public, or is this your?
Oh no, not yet.
Okay.
Okay, we're launching. We're having our soft opening for our port in October and end of this year.
Okay.
So when we launch that, then we'll have our maiden voyage from Liloan to Mactan Puhon.
And vice versa.
And vice versa, yes.
Okay. Wow,
Yeah.
Nice. That's pretty exciting.
Exciting. Thank you.
You also mentioned about tourism, and I know that you also mentioned Thailand earlier, and I was actually surprised to know about this just a few years ago that I think Thailand has like 30 or 40 million tourists a year or something like that. And at that time, we were only like 8 or 9 million or 10 million a year, right? So I go like, why does Thailand have so many tourists and we don't? What are your thoughts on the tourism industry, not just here in Cebu, but all over the Philippines?
I think connectivity is a problem and digitalization is a problem. Diba? Okay, for example, when tourist ako, I come here, so everybody speaks English here, which makes communication great. But then not a lot of establishments accept credit cards. And then when you're a tourist from America, UK, why not? Card na tanan. They buy their Starbucks with a card. It's like they don't use cash anymore. And so we need to we need to have digital solutions for our tourists. And number two, we don't have one travel app to guide them. Diba? So for example, if we had an app or we had a portal that has all the travel destinations in Cebu, then in one click of their hand, they can go there. So I want to go to Malboal. How do I get there? What transportation do I use? Where do I stay? Where do I eat? Where do I go? So if we equip the tourists with that information, that it just makes traveling less inconvenient for them. So the thing with tourists, Manggod, they travel because they want to feel relaxed. Diba? Kaya mo travel, stressed ka. Diba? So when you go to Thailand from the airport neatly, multiple bus options, multiple train options, diba? Multiple options to get to their final destination, and everything's digital. But Thais don't speak good English, diba? But they overcome that because of their infrastructure, I think. So if we get to that level, I think we are getting there. Okay, our internet service is becoming better, hopefully.
I think one of the most badly battered industries in this pandemic is the tourism industry, right? And I think those thoughts that you mentioned maybe were thought pre-pandemic, right? My question is, how do you think the tourism industry will survive a pandemic?
Well, it's being very badly battered right now. But there are no international tourists, very few. So, for example, Cebu's been surviving through local tourism. So we've been very lucky. Kaya Cebu has its own local economy, right? But I don't think it's sustainable in the long term. Like we really have, there's tourism, it's not just hotels or restaurants. It's all these little shops, it's all these manghihilot, it's all these salons. So it's this dagan mga cottage industries na we don't see right now that are being affected as well. So as a local community, makasustain ta in the short term, but eventually, we need to have these foreign arrivals because their purchasing power is higher. Yeah, and purchasing power sa kano, diba? Like sa American, it's 50 pesos to $1.
Yeah,
diba? So they can buy more. They have more money to spend. They can stay longer, diba?
Yeah.
So we'll see. Hopefully, we'll get to recover.
Kano. I like the way you said that. I haven't heard that word in a long time, right? Congratulations, by the way, for being the Spartan Race ambassador. I want to talk about this. I've hosted several Spartan races here in Cebu and in Subic, I think. And ako mahuna-hunaan gid rin nga buang naman sila. Like I have done difficult sporting events. I've run a marathon already, which is pretty tough as well. But I think being a Spartan Race athlete is a different kind of crazy. What is going on with Spartan Race now? There are several rumors about a race that's opening up very soon, as early as last year. I remember they were talking about it. What is going on now with Spartan Race?
Well, actually, the pandemic hit the sporting industry side, diba? Ironman, Spartan Race, marathons, tanan. So actually tomorrow, September 3, Spartan Race Philippines has a press conference at 1:30. So they're gonna announce. I don't want to prematurely announce their plans.
Okay.
Diba? So I want to wait till after they have the press conference before. Okay, they have all these safety guidelines. All these new rules.
Wait a minute, safety. So that means that there's a race, right?
Of course.
Okay. So at least there's a race coming up. Is it this year?
Yes, it's this year.
All right.
I'm very excited.
Is
Apil ka, pantay ka
Is
diya.
it in Luzon? Is it in the Visayas or is it in the
Are you
Mindanao?
trying to fish? May jud ka da.
No, ang isda gigo kay
All over the
nagsakay na ko sa
Philippines.
inyong marina nga masol ko dito.
Masul ka. They're deciding pa asa. But for sure, there's gonna be races sa Luzon, for sure sa Visayas food. And
Okay.
hopefully, well, granting, the pandemic, hopefully. But
Because I think Mangod, Spartan Race is a microcosm of life's challenges, right?
exactly.
Like this is the perfect time to do it. Like because of all of these challenges, I think we need to be able to have some kind of goal to win. And I think at the end of the finish line, you'll feel that you accomplished something. And I think now is the time to do it. I think we have all of this pent up energy, all those frustrations that we've had for the past almost 2 years now, right?
Oh, so different kind of crazy. Buang like
Pero lain klase yung abuang, lain sa nga mulima.
Oh, good. Like ako, Jake, I'm a germaphobe, right? You gonna
Okay. Oh no! Oh my God!
Lapok.
Oh, how did you do that?
Lapok. I don't know. Just do it.
Basig nagdakagkuan alcohol sa ka track.
Lapok. It's singaw. It's good. And the best part about it is the community.
Okay.
And it's good. Kay I noticed, but when you're an athlete or when you're passionate about working out or fitness, you don't keep it to yourself. You share it. Mangunay kag tao. So ako, like, when I,
Mangamong.
Ali, workata, yeah. When more often than not, mo appeal sila once, mo ganahan na. Kaya really, there's this effect, ba? Especially when you see the changes in your body, diba na, a lot of people take before and after photos. Kaya usually, that's like a sense of pride ba? No, wait, this is hard work. And Spartan, their number one hashtag is earned, not given. So your race, you earn it. Your training, you earn it. Each obstacle that you overcome, you earn it because you trained for it, right? So, and that's also my motto. Like, I don't like when things are handed down. I like to earn stuff, like earned, not given. So it's very earned, never given.
So have you trained? Have you trained for the next undisclosed race?
I train 4 times a week, Karon.
Okay.
So I train really early in the morning, like 7 in the morning to 8 before my workday starts. So hopefully I'll get strong enough again.
Okay. We have a lot of hopefully people watching this interview and can get a thing or two from talking to you. I'm sure they'll get a lot of tips, especially those that are going through a lot of physical, mental, and even financial hurdles in their minds. I think they've probably seen your perspective and how you do it. Bri, namang ubang tao, Brisa nga, bro, lisod yun sila ba? Like, there are really people who lisod you guys to get up, just to get out and get up in the morning. There are people who are go-getters like you, di ba? My definition of like an alpha male, alpha female, nasa mga different kinds of personalities, right? Kaning Spartan Race, for example, does it change your temperament? Do you become from whoever you are to a go-getter, or when you get back home, you go back to your set point? I'm curious, Bri, if you've had any experiences about people becoming different after overcoming an obstacle race like Spartan, or climbing a mountain, or swimming the deepest ocean, or whatever it is that you challenge yourself physically. Kani ilang mga temperament nga murag set point nila tapulan gid sila, because there are really people. I've met people like that. Murag lisod jud pag-auson sa balay, lisod jud patrabahon, lisod gid sila ba. It is almost like they're trapped. Trapped sila ng kind of mentality, but even no matter how you push them, what do you think? Have you seen people become better persons after going through a Spartan race, for example?
Absolutely. I've seen people become better after working out, after moving their bodies, excuse me. I think the mistake is you have to choose one sport and stick to it right away. I think you have to discover, you have to try out different things and see which one you like. Okay, we're all different people. We all have different likes. Lahi itong hilig magujig. Kung ka rock climb, pasin sumbagon ko nimo, di ba? But there are certain activities na ganahan ko na I'm sure everybody has passions. And then, so rock climbing is hard for other people, but jogging is not, diba? So murag, there are things siguro na kulang lang og push gamay. But to answer your question, I've seen a lot of people na, like ako mismo, I joined my first Spartan race because of heartbreak. Diba?
Okay.
And so, yeah.
Hugot, right?
So muna. And then after, because I didn't want to spend so much time or waste so much
Okay.
time wallowing in misery, in depression. Diba? So I wanted to change my state. So I joined Spartan. And then after that, murag, I became tougher. Diba? I really became so much tougher because of my Spartan training. And that's why I try to like influence other people in my life, because I know that if it could work for me, it could probably work for them too. Diba? So based on my personal experience, muna ikaw papilon ta ka. Hindi na ka mag-host, mag-race na ka. Ako na kayo buang manintaw ha. Dari apil wala di. Nangamong.
They were actually thinking about doing it again in the now in one of those mountain areas. I think in front. They were pointing that out to me. Is that one of the suspected areas now?
Yeah,
One of the candidates, the one with the cross
one
in
of
the
the
now?
candidates, potentially Lapuka to, but yeah,
No,
potentially.
they wanted to do a mountain trail of some sort.
I think Spartan, the franchise itself, acquired a new it's like long distance hiking. Like you
Okay.
do 3-day, 5-day hikes. So the
Okay.
guns products jig actually they also do Tough Mudder.
I've heard about that. Top Mother.
Yeah,
Yeah.
kana. And then nasa ka ng stadium where it's a huge stadium and you have obstacles inside the stadium. And they have Spartan kids. But so you see these like 4 or 5-year-old kids doing obstacles food.
Yeah.
It's so many. So Spartan itself, I think they got 7 million people off the couch. That's their diba? So you get off the
7 million off the couch.
Yeah, we got 7 million people off the couch. Now they're like doing Spartan races. So I think the secret is to just get out of your comfort zone, get out of your bubble, and just live your life,
And do something physical as well, right? I
Absolutely.
mean,
Start there.
going out of your bubble could also mean just doing something else, but not physical. I think the physical is also important, and I think the mind will follow.
And the physical aspect is the quickest way to see results. Kay physical, diba? I work out, I lose weight. Ang mental man good, dili siya measurable. You can't measure, diba? There's not a quantitative measurement for mental, getting mentally better.
But physical, when you feel good, I mean, you don't have to measure it, right?
True. That's true. But
after
physical,
I work out, I mean, you feel fabulous, right? You feel like
exactly.
you can rule the world sometimes.
Exactly. And then when you look on this at the scale side, diba, I lost 2 pounds in 1 week. I lost 4 pounds in 1 week. Diba, that makes you even more, more confident side and a lot better. So,
Bri, you have so many things on your plate. You have the top line group of companies. You have Spartan and all of these things. Where can they get in touch with you if they want to know more about top line group of companies, especially Top Line Marina and your other businesses, as well as Spartan? Maybe if you have an event, like you mentioned tomorrow, there's a press con of some sort, and then a big announcement will be made, and maybe they can also join that. Go ahead and share to us where they can catch you and your many endeavors. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Jake. So for Top Line group of companies, we have our website, topline.ph, or our Facebook page is also Top Line group of companies. For Spartan, go to Spartan Race Philippines. That's their Facebook handle. And sa IG, it's Spartan Race PH. Or if not, just follow me or add me as a friend, because I'll be regularly posting about Spartan events as well as our business progress also.
In Top Line. So where can they follow you? At where?
What's my Facebook is Brigette Carmel. That's my Facebook.
Okay.
And then Instagram, it's Brigette Lim, double M.
Okay.
So, or follow Jiggy. Now find me through Jiggy.
Okay. And will you still be working out outdoors like you always do?
Yeah. Actually, I prefer parking lot sessions. I prefer working out outdoors. Jig, I get a tan while working out. I get fresh air.
Yeah, yeah, correct. Yeah.
I like it. I like it much better than like working out at the gym.
What do you do if you're in a rut? What do you do? Like if you feel like you don't want to get out, you don't want to do anything, you are mildly depressed. How about that? What do you do?
I take time to process the reason for my depression.
Okay.
But why am I depressed? Is it personal? Is it professional? Is it hormonal? Because that happens too. And afterwards, after I process that, okay, this might be it. And then I get up and I'm like, all right, I have to move. And even the act of moving, like I get up and I go down the stairs or I get on my spin bike. Hinahinay lang ba? So, kana. And then after I do that, I always notice after my spin session or workout session, I'm in a much better place to process things. Yeah. And then I can look back on my situation and I can look at it without any emotion or minimal emotion. Maybe that like when something happens in the moment, you're like obsessed, you're like overwhelmed with things. kanimura kag ano na ba? Like
Step back.
nakadistansya na ka. Yeah, you can step back and process it better and come up with better solutions rather than you react right away. So I try to respond and not react. So that's that's my answer.
Yeah. That's a great answer. Also, I think you have to factor in also actual rest, right? Actual sleep, because I think sleep has been the most underestimated thing in the world. I think nothing that a lot of sleep, 7 to 8 hours of sleep can't fix, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, thank you so much, Bree or Brigette Carmel Lim. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking to you, and I'll talk to you some more, especially about Mactan Marina and about Spartan and all that stuff. Those are pretty exciting things that are going on, and I hope a top-line group of companies progresses in the way that we talked about today. That is a careful balance between nature and progress, as well as Spartan.
Topics, no? So many topics that we covered today. Thank you for that. I enjoyed it.
And it's all because of that stupid poem that you wrote. That was a beautiful poem.
I never meant for it to be a poem, but thank you. It was just I was feeling mildly depressed, and I'm like, why am I feeling depressed? Why am I sad? I gotta let this out, and I just like wrote it, and I'm glad that you received the message, and I thank you for that.
And you are a poet too.
frustrated poet lang.
Well, like I said, a frustrated poet is a good poet. Thank you so much, Bree. Thank you so much. It is a pleasure talking to you, and I'll talk to you some more one of these days. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Deliver possibilities faster in Cebu with Lala Move. Let's move forward to the new normal by delivering your business or personal needs in just 55 minutes. Deliver small or big items with our motorcycles starting at 60 pesos or four-wheel MPVs and light trucks starting at 250 pesos. Download the app now from Apple App Store or Google Play Store. Lala Move. Deliver faster. This episode is brought to you by Living in Style at the Park Mall, Lala Move. Download the app now, and Converge ICT. Get fast, true fiber internet. DM me your contact details now.